Have you ever, set a specific course for your life, maybe a particular career, a certain future you had mapped out, and then life just, well, it nudges you or maybe even shoves you onto a completely different path? We hear a lot about these carefully planned careers, right? But what about the winding roads, the unexpected turns that lead us somewhere we never planned, but surprisingly, somewhere we actually find ourselves quite happy? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that kind of journey. We're looking at this really fascinating interview with someone we'll call Peng. His story, it starts in high school in Beijing, takes him through university and grad school over in the US, and, well, lands him in a pretty demanding job in finance. It's a story just full of shifts. Challenges our usual ideas of what a successful path is supposed to look like.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story. And what's really striking about Peng's experience is how it just perfectly shows the power of adaptability and resilience, too. His first plan was very specific, very technical vehicle engineering. But as we'll see, a whole series of, well, unexpected things happened. And they steered him way off that course. He went from thinking about engineering to studying business administration, then marketing, and now he's thriving, actually, in business intelligence. At a hedge fund, no less. It's not just about changing jobs or majors, though. It's about a really profound internal shift he went through. And it all leads up to this powerful insight about self-belief.
Okay, so our mission today, for you listening, is to unpack how Peng navigated all these twists and turns. How did he make sense of it all? How did he find success and meaning in fields so different from where he started? We'll look at what he learned about the value of maybe a broader education than he planned for, and really crucially, the single biggest piece of advice he wishes he could give his younger self about confidence. This should give you some real aha moments, maybe make you think a bit differently about your own path and potential. So let's start at the beginning. Peng in high school Beijing. What was that like leading up to university?
Well, Peng described his high school time, this is around 2012, as pretty standard for anyone facing the Gaokao, the big university entrance exam in China.
Intense, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He said it was just this relentless cycle. Study all day, homework, sleep, repeat. He saw himself as kind of middle of the road academically, not top tier, but definitely not slacking off either. He talked about that last month before the exam, just drilling past papers constantly. He said it was incredibly tough, but also, really memorable. And his dream back then, very clear, vehicle engineering.
Okay.
And it wasn't just a random interest, it was personal. He wanted to go to a specific university in Hunan.
Why Hunan specifically?
Because his dad worked there in engineering. And Peng felt they didn't get much time together. So studying vehicle engineering there at a good school was his way to connect with his dad, follow in his footsteps, basically. It was a really clear goal, tied to passion and family.
That makes sense, a strong motivation. But as we know, things didn't quite go that way. What happened after the Gaokao? How did he get steered away from that dream?
All right, this is pivot number one, big one. Despite all the hard work, he didn't get into his top choices. Instead, he got adjusted. The term is TOG in the Chinese system, to a different university entirely, in Jiangsu province.
Oh, wow. So different location.
And different major. That got adjusted too. Instead of vehicle engineering, boom, he's enrolled in business administration.
Whoa, that's a complete left turn, geographically and academically.
Exactly. A total departure from his plan.
How did he even process that? And maybe for listeners, what does business administration or Shanko actually involve over there?
Well, it was definitely a shock, but he had to consciously kind of decide to lean into it. Business administration, it's fundamentally really broad business degree. Peng said he learned, a little bit of everything.
Like what?
Accounting, finance, macroeconomics, various maths, even modern probability theory. But the key thing was its breadth. It touched on lots of areas, but didn't go super deep into any one specific thing.
Okay. Broad, not deep.
Right. And what's really insightful is what he realized later. Looking back, he found that broad, maybe less specialized education, incredibly useful. Really practical for his current job.
How so?
He found that for his work now, deep academic theory in one niche wasn't the main thing. It was more important to have a general grasp across different business functions. Understanding accounting basics, how finance works, how companies operate generally, that was key.
Okay.
He said the really deep, specific knowledge he needs now, that mostly comes from on-the-job training anyway, where industry practices can be quite different from what you learn in textbooks.
Right, the real-world application.
Exactly. Like he learned advanced calculus, limit calculations. Doesn't use them day to day. But probability theory, that's directly relevant. So this major he didn't initially choose, this broad foundation, it actually turned into a huge asset, a versatile toolkit.
So it sounds like he really embraced that versatility. He mentioned adopting a learn to love what you do mindset. How did that help him turn this unexpected situation around?
Yeah, that's crucial. His approach wasn't just passive acceptance, it was active engagement. He consciously decided, okay, this is my field now, I'm going to dive in. He described himself as someone who finds satisfaction in the path they're actually on, rather than always wishing for something else.
That's a powerful mindset. Adaptability.
Absolutely. And that positive reframing, it was critical. It wasn't about pretending to be happy, but genuinely investing himself in understanding and, trying to excel in business admin. And that quality, that adaptability, you see it playing out again later in his story.
That definitely sounds like it set him up well. So after undergrad, did that same attitude guide his decision about grad school?
It sure did. Peng always knew he wanted to get a master's degree. That was part of his long-term view. But he also wanted a change of scene. So around his junior year, he decided against doing a master's in China. He wanted to go abroad.
A different experience.
Completely different academic and cultural environment, yeah. And that led him to New York University, NYU, for a master's in marketing.
Okay, marketing. Still business, but narrowing the focus a bit. What drew him to marketing specifically?
He really liked the quantitative side of it. He got fascinated by research models, figuring out what factors influence customer satisfaction, doing different kinds of quantitative analysis.
So more the analytical side?
Exactly. And it wasn't totally out of the blue. He'd actually picked marketing as his sort of subspecialty back in his second year of undergrad. So while it was a specialization, it felt like a pretty natural step from his broad business admin background, especially given his preference for analytical work.
Got it. So master's in marketing done. What was the first job, and how did that lead eventually to the hedge fund?
First job out of grad school was right in line with his degree, data analysis, but focused on market research, what he called industry research.
Makes sense.
So lots of analyzing market trends, competitors, consumer behavior in specific industries. Good match for his skills and interests. From there, he made the jump to his current role. He's a business intelligence professional, BI, at a hedge fund over in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Okay, BI at a hedge fund. What does that actually involve day to day?
It's heavy on sophisticated data analysis and visualization. He's creating management reports, basically, the kind that are crucial for making strategic decisions within the fund. It requires a lot of precision, speed, and the ability to take complex data and make it, understandable and actionable quickly.
That does sound like a big leap. Not just industry, but the intensity sounds high. What's it like working in that kind of environment, a hedge fund?
He definitely painted a picture. It's very demanding. Typical day might be 10 a.m. to 8 or 9 p.m., sometimes later, maybe 10 p.m.
Wow, long hours.
Yeah, and unlike tech, maybe, where you see more hybrid work, his firm is daily in the office.
Yeah.
The finance world, as he put it, it's just high pressure, lots of urgent requests from management. We need this analysis now, pull these numbers ASAP, that kind of thing.
Sounds stressful.
It can be. But interestingly, despite all that intensity, he said he's generally satisfied with his work and his life now. He's found a way to manage it, to thrive even, which, again, kind of circles back to that decision he made way back in university.
To actively engage, learn to love what you do.
Exactly. Invest yourself fully. Find the meaning in the path you're on. His adaptability and, crucially, his growing confidence seemed key to handling this demanding job.
It's quite the journey mentally, isn't it? From dreaming of designing cars, maybe working in a factory like his dad, to this high-pressure data world of finance. Did he ever reflect on that original dream? Wonder, what if?
Oh, definitely. He thought about it often. He said his life would be completely different. He imagined maybe being a technician in a car workshop or deep in design work in some R&D lab. More technical, he said.
Yeah.
Certainly not the sort of white-collar, office-based life he has now, staring at computer screens and data all day. But the interesting thing about his reflection, it wasn't regret. It was more acceptance and real satisfaction with where he ended up.
So not looking back, wishing things were different.
No, not at all. More looking forward, content with the present. And that acceptance, that's another piece that ties into his big realization.
Okay, let's get to that. The core insight. After all these twists, the adjustments, the adapting, if he could zip back in time, what's the number one thing he'd tell young Peng?
His answer was immediate. He'd tell his younger self, I think you're great. You need to have confidence in yourself.
Wow. Simple, but powerful.
That, he said, was the absolute foundation. the most important thing. He talked about always lacking confidence when he was younger, and he linked it, partly at least, to some aspects of traditional Chinese family education, which, is obviously well-intentioned.
All right.
But he observed it often tends to focus on what's not perfect. The example he gave was, say you get 99 out of 100 on a test.
Great score.
Right. But the immediate reaction might be, why didn't you get 100? What happened to that 1 point? Not necessarily celebrating the 99. He felt this created this constant background awareness of, in his words, many places where I don't do well.
Oh, that resonates. I can see how that focus on flaws, even small ones, could create a negative pattern.
Exactly. He called it a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
If you always operate from self-doubt, you're kind of primed to find fault with yourself. The more you believe you aren't doing well, the less confidence you have. And then, paradoxically, your actual performance can suffer.
Right.
The analogy he used was reciting a difficult poem. The poem itself, its difficulty, doesn't change whether you recite it alone or on a big stage.
Yeah, okay.
But what does change, and hugely impacts how well you do it, is your mindset, your belief in whether you can do it.
The internal state.
Precisely. He really believes that often the big difference between people's results isn't some massive gap in ability. It's the mindset, especially self-belief. And looking back now from where he is successful, satisfied, he realizes he's achieved way, way more than his younger, less confident self ever thought was possible.
So if we take Peng's experience as a guide, how do we break out of that cycle, that self-doubt loop? What's the practical takeaway for building confidence?
His advice is actually quite straightforward,
Nah.
but profound. We need to actively, consciously, consistently remind ourselves of the things we do well.
Focus on the positives.
Yes. He stressed that our strengths and weaknesses, they're both equally part of us. It's not about ignoring areas for improvement, but it's about giving equal, maybe even more weight to our accomplishments, our skills, affirming our capabilities.
And patience, too.
Absolutely. He specifically said, possibly you don't do well in the short term, which doesn't mean you won't do well in the long term. That shift in perspective, that deliberate practice of self-belief and self-affirmation, that's what he really wishes he'd grasped much earlier. It's about constructing a narrative for yourself that acknowledges your strengths, even while you're working on challenges.
So recapping Peng's journey, that initial dream, vehicle engineering, it organically shifted, didn't it, to business admin, then marketing, finally landing him in BI at a hedge fund. It's such a clear example of that learn to love what you do idea, finding real satisfaction, real success, by embracing the detours life throws at you, not fighting them.
Yeah, and his path really highlights how valuable adaptability is, and how a broad education, even one you didn't plan on, can be this incredibly strong foundation for navigating, whatever the professional world throws at you.
Definitely.
And right at the core of it all is that incredibly poignant message about self-confidence. Peng's point about how sometimes upbringing can unintentionally focus on the negatives that miss point on the test, and how that can start that vicious cycle of self-doubt impacting performance.
Yeah.
Such a powerful observation. But his own life is the counter-argument, isn't it? It shows that cycle can be broken. He achieved so much more than young Peng thought possible, largely by learning to believe in himself.
It's a great reminder for all of us, really, that maybe the gap isn't always in our abilities, but in our mindset. And just shifting how we see ourselves, how we talk to ourselves can make a massive difference in our performance, our outcomes, our whole lives. What he's essentially saying is, don't let a temporary setback or an unexpected change, or even just that nagging inner critic, define what you're capable of long term. Your journey, however winding, it's yours, and it holds so much potential.
Which really leaves us with a question to think about, doesn't it? Building on Peng's wisdom, what if we consciously decided to do what he suggested? To make it a daily practice to remind ourselves of our strengths, our wins, the things we do well, to give ourselves that affirmation he found so crucial. How might that regular habit actually change our path? Could it help break those cycles of self-doubt in our own lives?
It's like giving yourself the same kind of encouragement and belief you'd naturally give to a good friend. Something definitely worth considering.